As I said before, don't forget to adjust your name to your name_campus. And also during the lecture, please turn off your microphone and only turn on the microphone when the moderator gives you the chance. Third, please fill your attendance that will be provided in the chat box. And for participants who wish to get an e-certificate and stamp, please fill the attendance 15 minutes after the session starts. Fourth, participants who wish to ask questions during the Q&A session, please send your question at the link that will be provided in the chat box, or you can ask directly by using raise hand feature. Ladies and gentlemen, today we will have speaker that will present their expertise and research related to SDGs number 17. Before we start our agenda, okay, I'm sorry. Today's speaker is Dr. Denisa Kawurian, an international NGO forum on INFIT, International NGO Forum on Indonesian Development, or INFIT. And the theme that she will bring is role of CSOs in SDGs implementation in Indonesia. Before we start our agenda, allow me to deliver our schedule for today. First, opening and introductions to speaker. Second, lecture session. Third, Q&A session. And fourth, certificate awarding. And the fifth is closing. Okay, now before we proceed to the next agenda, let me introduce our first speaker, or our one and only speaker, Ms. Denisa or Dr. Denisa Kawurian from International NGO Forum on Indonesian Development, or INFIT. Her education background was in Bachelor of Arts in International Relations at President University, and her working experience was in Program Officer of Sustainable Development Goals at INFIT, and now she is working in Program Assistant of Sustainable Development Goal of INFIT, and her research and publication in 2021 entitled Risk Privatization, COVID-19 and the Urgency of Health Reform in Indonesia, Journal of Arts and Social Science. For participants, if you have any question that tickles you, please do not hesitate to drop it in this forum. You can write down your question through the link that has been sent to the Zoom chat box, and we will discuss it in the Q&A session after the lecture session. I will say my hi to, is it okay if I call you Dr. Denisa? Or it is just Miss Denisa?
Miss Denisa is fine, I think.
Okay, Miss Denisa, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for coming in this wonderful opportunity that we will talk about SDGs number 7, collaboration in a partnership for the goals. It is very wonderful opportunity to have you here, Miss Denisa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ade.
Okay. Okay, without any further ado, I will invite Miss Denisa to present a lecture about SDGs number 17. The time is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Ade, and also everyone who joined here. It's really great opportunity for me to be able to share my experiences in promoting sustainable development goals in Indonesia to this forum. And actually it's a prestigious university in Indonesia as well, ITS. So it's a really great opportunity for me, and I hope that we all can learn something through this forum. And please allow me to share my screen right now. Okay, can anyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen clearly, Ms. Denisa. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. So today, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity again. So today I will bring the titles of the presentation, role of civil society organization in sustainable development goals implementation in Indonesia, highlighting number 17, multi-stakeholder partnership for supporting the goals. Me, myself, as has been introduced previously, my name is Denisa Amelia Kaurian. You may call me Denisa for short. I am currently working as the Program Officer for Sustainable Development Goals at the International NGO Forum on Indonesian Development. So before going further, I think it's really great an opportunity for me to introduce my organization or my institution. INFIT itself is an old organization. It's an old non-governmental organization. We have been established since 1985. So the age is about like 30 years something, and INFIT plays pivotal roles in the democratization process and inclusive development. We are currently membership-based NGO with 88 members spread across 34 provinces in Indonesia. One of several of other NGOs who are also member of INFIT are Kontras, for example, Indonesia Corruption Watch, PBHI, Bakumsu, KPI, Walhi, and other civil society organizations. Since 2013, we currently focus on three main issues. The first one is reducing inequality. Previously, we were talking about debt, inequality of economic access, and right now we are talking about inequality of gender. The second one, we focus on implementation of sustainable development goals, where I'm currently part of that divisions. And the last one is human right and democracy. So we are actually overseeing the implementation of democracy in Indonesia. Not only in Indonesia as a countries, we also affiliate with other international organizations, for example, Forus, AFD, Civicus, ADN, ADA, TAP, and Sustainable or SDSN. So we also awarded 2017 Social and Humanitarian Organization Award by Ministry of Home Affairs. And one thing that is very specific about INFIT, INFIT has been granted UN Special Consultative Status with the Economic and Social Council or ECOSOC in 2004. It means that we are able to visit UN General Assembly every year, and we're able to share our opinion, express our view about the concept of international development in UN General Assembly. So what I'm going to share today, right? So there will be another 4 points that I will be divided. The first one is about SDGs in Indonesia. I'm pretty sure some of you here already know about sustainable development goals because I saw like from the YouTube account there are like several speakers who already spoke before me and they're talking about sustainable development goals. But I want to know like a little bit dig deeper about the concept of SDGs itself in Indonesia. The first one is about regulatory framework of SDGs, implementation, as well as SDGs index. The second one, I will talk a little bit deeper about Goal 17 SDG structure, and also role of civil society organization in SDGs, and also best practices and conclusions. But before going further, I think because this is like late afternoon, maybe some of you are in the morning or maybe in the evening, it will be great to know a little bit of your knowledge on SDGs. If it's okay, please, if it's, okay, let me do I will ask a little bit using Mentimeter, if it's okay for you guys. You can prepare your mobile phone. So there will be like 2 quick questions about sustainable development goals, since all of you already know about sustainable development goals, right? I just want to listen a little bit. What do you think about SDGs? So can anyone join the code here in 64880976 and share your view? What do you think about sustainable development goals? If you have any difficulties to join to the code, please let me know. I will try to fix that. Okay, since no one answering, so we're not going to start if no one really answering, or like just anyone want to raise their hand and speak something about what do you think about SDGs? Okay. Oh yeah, thank you, Mr. Ade. Okay, helpful. Thank you so much. Any other opinion about sustainable development goals, please? Or maybe ambitious, or I don't know, transformative, or anything in Indonesia is okay as well. Necessary. Thank you. Any other opinion helpful? Since like there are like 32 students here, maybe any other opinion about sustainable development goals? Or it's a pretty new concept, right? For a better future, okay. Okay. Okay, we are going to stop here. I will move to the next questions. So do you think Indonesia can achieve its SDGs target in 2030? Or maybe some of you are coming from other countries, it's okay as well. You can put, do you think Indonesia can achieve the target in 2030, or your country can achieve the target in 2030? Okay, 1%. Okay, many people answer no. This is very interesting, yeah. No one say yes, no one be optimistic about SDGs implementation in Indonesia or your countries. Okay, so one person say yes. Okay, so now we are going to move to the presentations. Okay, 20% and 80% say no. So is there anyone who want to voluntarily sharing why do you think it's a no and why do you think it's a yes? Can anyone, briefly speaking, why do you think it's a no or it's a yes? Please raise your hand. Okay, no one want to share? Oh yeah, it's okay as well. I don't want to force you to speak something about SDGs, but if you feel comfortable sharing your opinion, feel free to raise your hand and we are going to have more interesting sessions. So now I'm going to move again to the presentations. So since some of you, actually majority of you do not believe that SDGs could be achieved in 2030, and it's quite pessimistic, and it's totally fine, especially since we are facing COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, there are a lot of problems in the context of development sector that we need to focus on, and there are like 20% of you who are optimistic that SDGs could be achieved in 2030. So this is the presentation. So hopefully all of you can see my screen again. So there are a lot of problems in Indonesian development, unfortunately. So we are talking about why SDGs is very necessary and critical in the very first place. There are a lot of poverty, there are a lot of garbage, trash, even like a lot of people do not really care about the environment. There are a lot of other people, other children who do not have enough access of quality educations, quality of health, and even like there are huge gender inequality in many parts of the world, including in Indonesia. So if we move again, you will see there are a lot of many problems, unfortunately, in our countries. For example, Indonesia Corruption Perception Index has decreased, especially during this COVID-19, and it's actually ranked the same as the country of Gambia. If we are talking about the context of inequality, the 4 richest men in Indonesia, like 4 persons, have more wealth than the combined total of the poorest 100 million people. Can you imagine like how rich is this 4 richest men in Indonesia? And for those of you who are pessimistic toward SDGs implementation, so according to Asia Pacific Forum, Asia Pacific not on track to achieve any sustainable development goal by 2030, including Indonesia. That's why a lot of people are pessimistic toward this goal eventually. And also, if you are talking about democracy, Indonesia democracy is flawed, especially during COVID-19, because there are a lot of regulations that backlash the civic space. For example, limit the ability of civil society organizations to operate in Indonesia. There are also problem of forest destructions, and also Indonesia is the second biggest marine pollutant after China. So if we are focusing or having an issue or interest on the garbage or in the trash, so this is something that we need to work on, because there are a lot of trash in Indonesia, especially most of the people throw it away to the sea, to the marine, and it became a marine pollutant. And according to the news as well, about like 115 islands in Indonesia, both medium and small, are threatened with sinking due to rising sea levels. because of all of these problems, and it's not only happening in Indonesia only, but also like many parts of the world have also this kind of like similar problems. So world leaders were decided to sit together and discuss what's the concepts, something that we can promote or something that we can do to our development system. So that's why they come up with the idea of sustainable development. Sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So I would like to highlight 2 points here. The first one is the need itself, right? So it means that if we are using the resources, we need also to pay attention whether this is something that we need or something that we want. And in the context of need, it's supposed to be prioritized to those who are world poor or those who are left behind. And in the context of limitations, it's something limited. It means that we cannot use the resources as much as we want because everything is limited, especially on the environment ability to meet present and future needs. That's why sustainable development is introduced to address the global capitalisms, because in the context of global capitalism, profit is the most important one. Profit is like the number one, is paramount. Often the profits are made at the expense of our society. It is a system of power and highly unequal access to resources and deep-based violence. For me myself, I would like to give you an example. Me myself, I'm coming from East Kalimantan, Indonesia. Maybe some of you have gone to East Kalimantan previously, the future of capital city of Indonesia. Like for me, when I was in elementary schools, it took me for about like 1 hour to only take an English lesson in the city using a motorcycle. And when I studied in Jakarta for my university, it took me for about only like 5 minutes to visit one of the best, like courses in English in the city. So it shows that there is this huge inequal access of, for example, educations to be accessed by a lot of people in Indonesia and also in many parts of the world. That's why we call it as highly unequal access to resources, because not people get the access and opportunity to reach that resources. So that's why they call it transforming our world. And even like the title is transform, right? So it means that we need to transform something really bad and something systematically, because it's transforming our world. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It's a universal call action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by 2030, all people enjoy peace and prosperity. So this is like 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and I'm pretty sure most of you already know about this informations. So this is very critical as well. Many people know about Sustainable Development Goals, but they do not really know what they want to achieve, because they don't really understand what's the target and indicators of Sustainable Development Goals. So this is something that United Nations try to introduce, and it actually can be changed according to national situations. If we are talking about Indonesian context, it might be a little bit different. But like if you want to identify 1 until 5, the target, if you check the target of Sustainable Development Goals, 1 until 5 is actually the target that we want to achieve. A and B is the means of implementation to achieve the target 1 into 5. So if we are talking, so most of this is the target, and this is like the means of implementations. And if we see like number 17, there are like 19 target, and all of them is actually means of implementations, because the goal of 17 is trying to promote the importance of multi-stakeholder partnerships, because in order to achieve the target and the goals and 1 until 16, it's very impossible if we just do it only by ourselves. For example, only by the government or even only by the university. We need to collaborate together to achieve the goals by inviting a lot of multi-stakeholders in that occasions. So this is like the target and indicators that we are currently focusing on. So there are like 5 P's of sustainable development. It's like people, prosperity, peace, partnership, and planet. And the slogan is leave no one behind. So if you know about Millennium Development Goals, it's like 15 years before the Sustainable Development Goals, like 2000 until 2015. Millennium Development Goals has successfully reduced number of poverty, a lot of HIV cases in many parts of the world. Unfortunately, they are not really focusing on the most vulnerable. So that's why in Sustainable Development Goals, they try to answer what's lacking in Millennium Development Goals by ensuring that there will be no one left behind in the development process, especially those who are marginalized. For example, people with disabilities, women, indigenous people, or older people, elderly, if I'm saying, and other people who you think that they are marginalized. There are like 4 points of the principle of sustainable development. It means interlinkage, a lack of progress on one goal hinder progress on others, because you cannot like focus on, for example, I want to focus number 1, but I don't want to think about like number 2 or number 17. It's okay, but it's actually not that effective, because one goal is actually contributing to another goal. The second one is transformative, because it's focused on deep, systemic, and interconnected, permanently transform the nature of development and making environmental and social sustainability a defining characteristic of economic activity. So we are not only focusing on GDP, for example, like gross domestic GDP all the times, but we also need to pay attention on the environment, the happiness of the people, the prosperity of the people. So there will be like this another concept of development that we need to focus on. It's a universal. It's not only focusing on poor countries, or how do I say, like there are like for example, Africa, or even like Indonesia is developing countries as well. So they're not only focusing on developing countries, but all countries need to take parts in the sustainable development goals. And the other one is a comprehensive. So there is a quote actually coming from Ban Ki-moon. He was a Secretary General of the UN when the goal has been promoted. So he mentioned we need to stop working in silos. If we want to make a difference, we need to approach things in a different way. Unfortunately, we are talking about the government systems, even university system, even civil society organizations, with something focusing on one thing, but we don't really pay attention on the other. That's why our approach is usually silos. That's why we need to think like more comprehensively. That's something that SDG is trying to promote. So what happens in Indonesia, right? So why do we need to care about sustainable development goals in Indonesia? So even President Joko Widodo already mentions, because currently we are leading the G20 summit, and we are going to have the summit in, if I'm not mistaken, in November in Bali 2022. President Joko Widodo mentioned that we must immediately take action so that the world will not fall into a prolonged crisis. The G20 countries must make a number of joint efforts to ensure that the SDGs can be achieved according to the target set in 9 years. So it means that even the leader of our countries, the highest leader in this context is President Joko Widodo, mentions that we need to implement sustainable development goals, and also trying to encourage other members of the countries in G20 to also do the same thing. So what do we have, right, in Indonesia? So luckily, we are quite progressive enough in the context of regulatory framework, because we have Presidential Decree number 59, year 2017, implementation of the achievement of sustainable development goals. So INFIT as a civil society organization also take part of this, encouraging the promotions or the establishment of Presidential Decree number 59, year 2017. So we have the coordination team, the formation of a national coordination team with the Minister of National Development Planning or Bappenas as the implementing coordinator. So if, for example, I want to do something about sustainable development goals, I want to ask him permissions, or I want to ask guidance, you can actually call the Secretariat of SDGs that is currently working or have office in Bappenas, because Bappenas is the implementing coordinator of sustainable development goals in Indonesia. And also there is a coordination team in national and also coordination team in region that is involving multi-stakeholder partnership. That's why it's very critical, involving the government, civil society, academia, like most of us here, and also the private sector. And in the context of inclusivity, we also have Civil Society Coalition for Sustainable Development Goals. INFIT itself is one of the leader in the Civil Society Coalition. So we are actually, consists of several civil society organizations in Indonesia to promote and evaluate and oversee the implementation of SDGs in Indonesia. There are also 25 SDG center or network or hub that is that has been established in Indonesia, for example, in Unsia Aceh. I'm not really sure about ITS. Maybe like some of you would like to share the whether ITS already has the SDG center or not. And also, if I'm not mistaken, there's also one in Bengkulu and Universitas Padjadjaran. And the other one is Indonesian Business Council for Sustainable Development, ABCSD. It's focusing on business. So they have like the business forum to promote sustainable development goals. In the context of regulatory framework, since we already have presidential decree, I know it's quite hierarchical, or it's a very regulatory heavy, a little bit heavy in the context of regulatory framework, but we have like National Action Plan on SDGs 2020-2024, Regional Action Plan SDGs 2030 roadmap. So if you want to make a proposal, for example, for your event or for your, for your business idea, you can check in SDGs 2030 roadmap. And we just have regulation of the Ministry of Village Development of Disadvantaged Region and Transmigration to implement SDGs in the village. So previously we're only asking province to, you need to promote SDGs in your development sector. But since 2021, if I'm not mistaken, the Ministry of Village already make a regulation to ask village to also implement sustainable development goals in the very local level. And we also need to do and also pay attention on the monitoring and evaluation and reporting as well, because Indonesia is the Indonesia has been third time presented its voluntary national review in the United Nations in 2017, 2019, and 2021. So how's the implementation of Indonesia in SDGs index? So if we are talking about SDGs index, Indonesia is actually quite low compared to other Asian countries. For example, Singapore, Vietnam, I think they are like ranked higher compared to Indonesia. And if you check one by one, something that is progressively quite good is number 4, number 6, and number 8. And something we can see remains significant challenges remain is number 11, number 13, number 14, number 15, and number 17, unfortunately. And number 10 in number 12, it means information unavailable. So this is something, this index is created by SDSN. Professor Jeffrey Sachs, I think he's studying in Columbia University. And how about the goal 17? So as I previously mentioned, there are like this, if you check specifically into specific goals, goal 1 until 7 plus is usually focusing on social development about people, for example, about poverty, about hunger, about health, about sanitation, about gender. And if we are talking about prosperity, we are talking about like 7 until 12 plus, focusing on, for example, decent work, inequality, or like good infrastructure, sustainable infrastructure, and the others. And if we are talking about planet, we are talking usually about number 6, 7, 12, 13, 14, and 15, and plus. Why do we put plus here? Because as I previously mentioned, one goal is correlated to each other, so that's why it's always something with plus, because it's actually related as well with number 7, for example. But like this one is the most relevant in this context. What and how? It's actually goal 7, goal 16. It focuses on peace, justice, and strong institutions. And in the context of how is goal 17, partnership for the goals, means of implementations. And if we divide it into another specific, another specific classification, number 17 itself has been divided into several classifications. We are talking about finance, how to fund sustainable development goals. We are focusing on target number 17.1 until 17.5, technology 17.6 until 17.8, and the others. If we are talking about systemic issues, for example, the problem is related to the governance. Now, policy institutional coherence, we focus on 17.13 until 17.15. So if you check specifically into the target and indicators, you may see like the difference between means of implementation and also systemic issues in SDGs number 17. So what's the role of Indonesian civil society organization in Indonesia? As I previously mentioned that it's impossible for us to do SDGs alone. We need to collaborate. We need to promote multi-stakeholder partnership. Since SDGs itself highlight for very important actors in supporting sustainable development goals, they are like government and parliament. The second one is academic and expert. Actually, most of us here are academic. Most of you here actually academic and expert, since you are studying in a very good university, right? And also CSO and media, it's me. It's like civil society organizations overseeing the government and etc. And also philanthropy and business. And if we are talking about the government, what's the function of the government in SDGs? They are like indicator setting, policies and programs, strengthening data and information, socialization, dissemination, monitoring, regulatory. If we are talking about academic capacity building, like in this kind of forum, we are improving the capacity building. We are sharing and we are doing discussions to improve our knowledge on sustainable development goals. For example, monitoring and evaluation, policy paper. You are more than welcome to create a paper on sustainable development goals based on your expertise, or even like creating policy brief as the basis for policy formulations. If we're talking about CSO and media, we are trying to promote, disseminate, advocate the importance of sustainable development goals. We facilitate program, we're building public understanding and also monitoring. And if we're talking about philanthropy business, of course, they have the funding. That's why it's funding support, capacity building, program facilitation, and business advocacy. Why do we need multi-stakeholder partnership? What's the urgency, right? So there are like 3 points here that I would like to share. Development financing from the government is very limited. Even just several hours ago, I read the news that there is the financing gap for sustainable development goals in Indonesia is estimated at $1 trillion. So there's a huge gap in the context of funding in SDGs implementation. So that's why it's quite relevant. It's quite okay for us to be pessimistic because there is not much resources to support SDGs implementations. But hopefully it doesn't limit it, if it doesn't hamper our efforts. And the second one is participation of local actors in local planning process is not yet optimal. Not many people understand SDGs, unfortunately. Maybe some of us are very lucky to understand what's actually SDGs, what's SDGs for, like how we can improve sustainable development goals. If we're talking to, for example, your mother, your father, for example, or even like your neighbor in your house, or even if you are coming from the field and you are talking about sustainable development goals, or in Indonesia we call it as tujuan pembangunan berkelanjutan. Not many people are aware of these important goals, and many of them do not really know how to contribute to achieve this goal. And there's also a limited time, 8 years to 2030, because it has been agreed on 2015, and there is 15 years, and it will be ended in 2030. So it means that 8 years more, 2030. So why do we need to pay attention on civil society? Civil society is both means to ensuring social participation in the implementation of 2030 agenda, as well as the beneficiaries of the promise of the goals. And unfortunately, not many people are paying attention on civil society organizations. That's why there is this document recommend the governments to create a safe and enabling environment for civil society engagement in the agenda 2030. For example, if you know the news, there are a lot of limitations of movement for civil society organization. We cannot express our thought and our opinion freely because there are like certain limitation that we need to pay attention on, or we don't have any funding to actually continue our project because there is no support for civil society organization. That's why the government and also multi-stakeholder need to pay attention to create a safe and enabling environment for civil society to engage in the agenda 2030. There is also inclusion and participation of civil society, accountability of the 2030 agenda and its processes, and partnership. It means that we need to promote partnership by engaging with civil society organizations in many activities that we are currently doing. So this is the role of civil society organization in localizing SDGs. Usually, like we are voicing the poorest and most marginalized community by listening to the people, translate the voice of the poorest and most marginalized citizen into rational or strong arguments. We develop relationship and partnership with the local government because we already listen what the community needs, for example, what's the problem in the community, and we try to voice out the need of the marginalized people and the poorest one, and we are trying to building the relationship with the local government, and it's very critical as well for us to use human right based approach. That's what we call it, as a lens of analysis, and identify, engage, and learn with the other civil society organizations, and also play a critical role as transformers in society. We are also agents of accountability. We are trying to make the government and other other multi-stakeholder organizations responsible, answerability, and also enforceability. We are also service delivery agents. Some of us are working in a very rural area by giving service to those who need the most, and also data collection, reporting, and monitoring. And in the context of INFIT as a civil society organizations, I put three best examples that we are currently doing. The first one, we are actively promoting the ratification of sexual violence law, Undang-Undang TPKS. Maybe some of you already know about this huge agenda that just recently passed by our Indonesian government. So we are actually part of organization who voice out the importance of ratification of the sexual violence law, because we know our members are also working on this issue as well. There are a lot of women, also men. It's not only women yet. There are also men and those LGBTQ who actually face a lot of threats in sexual violence. There is also a news, for example, there's also research that just has been published in 2021 about the digital gender gap and the importance of accelerating good CSO initiative. And we see that there is unequal access of technology between women and also men, especially in the village. So there is this how do I say, a different power in the context of having technological devices. So for example, most of those who are having handphone are men, because they are actually the one who work outside, and women do not have access of technology. For example, in that cases, so we see that there is this highly unequal access on access of technology between men and women, especially in the rural area. And in the context of sanitations, we are also working with the Kabupaten Tangerang, GP Ansor, and Integrated Water Sanitation and Hygiene Program, IWAS, to create a survey in pesantren. Pesantren is like an Islamic boarding school. So we collaborate to create a research, and we found that there are many of pesantren or Islamic boarding schools who didn't have access on good sanitation facilities. That's why we create research, and then we advocate to the government, to the local government. In this case is Kabupaten Tangerang. And fortunately, during 2018 and 2019, more than 100 sanitation facilities of Islamic boarding schools have been improved. And even the government was also awarded for the third time the Sindo Weekly Government Award in the health category, which was given directly by the Minister of Villages, Disadvantaged Region, and Transmigration of the Republic of Indonesia in 2019. So this is something that we are calling as, we're listening the voice of those who are living in a pesantren or Islamic boarding school, and we translate the voice into a research, like evidence-based advocacy, and we advocate it to the local government. And that's why the local government do something about it to respond to the need of people who need the sanitation facilities. And we also create a research on the context of how civil society organizations see SDGs implementation in Indonesia. Maybe some of you, or maybe one of you, can actually create your own research, or like even thesis, or maybe another articles, how young people, for example, see sustainable development goals in your respective communities. We as a civil society organization, we also created our this research to see how civil society organization perceive sustainable development goals. And we created in 2019, 2021, and also this year, 2020, we just started the process. So from our research involving 90 respondents, 40 men, 46 women, and the rest didn't mention their sexes. 30% of them are national civil society organization. It means they are working in the capital city of Indonesia, and 70% are local civil society organizations. We also have a focus group discussions, expert review, and also report launching. And we found that many civil society organizations have difficulty to filling out questionnaires due to knowledge and experience gaps, along with the gaps in access to information technology. So it means that there are still many other civil society organizations who do not know about sustainable development goals. And the number of each goal was unequal. The report provides a macro picture of sustainable development goals implementations. It's not that deep enough since we only received 90 respondents from the research. And Bappenas, as the coordinating ministry of SDGs, appreciate the report as it provides a neutral and critical narrative to improve the implementation of SDGs. And from the research, we find that legal and policy framework reached the highest score. Contrastively, the transparency and accountability mechanism and procedure factor gained the lowest score. So it means that we appreciate the effort of the Indonesian government to create a strong regulation framework, in which in this case is presidential regulations. It's a quite strong, but unfortunately in the implementations, there are something we need to work on in the context of transparency and accountability, because it's not that transparent and accountable yet. In the context of national implementations, about 66.7% of respondents assessed that SDGs achievement in Indonesia as mediocre. It means that it's so-so. So it's not that good, it's not that bad, but it's just like so-so, just regular. And several problems they mentioned is lack of synergy, collaboration, as well as monitoring and evaluation mechanisms. And there's this huge gap, unfortunately, in national and local implementations, because according to our data, about 74% of respondents know about National Action Plan on SDGs. Maybe some of you would like to interested to dig more on National Action Plan on SDGs as well, but less than 50% of civil society organizations in the local region know about local action plan. This is something that we see is a huge gap in the national and local implementation of sustainable development goals. And in the context of constraint, priorities, and opportunities, the constraint is actually information to involve. Not many civil society organizations know how to involve. Maybe some of you also do not know how to involve in supporting SDGs. There is also the problem in the context of budget. We have the idea, we have the initiative, but we don't have the funding. There's also a problem of policy advocacy, monitoring data, and also the capacity of civil society organization to promote sustainable development goals. As I previously mentioned, not many people are actually able to understand about the concept of SDGs, and it actually hindered the implementation of SDGs, especially in the local level. If we are talking about the priorities, they prioritize multi-stakeholder collaborations as the number 17 trying to promote. Another priority is budget as well, regulatory framework, public communication, and leave no one behind principles. And in the context of monitoring and evaluations, maybe some of you already know about voluntary national review, but unfortunately, almost 80% of respondents were not involved in the VNR formulation. It's a process of monitoring and evaluations led by Ministry of National Development Planning. And if you are working with youth organization, for example, so you can actually participate in this meeting voluntarily. And there are 5 most frequently marginalized community groups. Here is women and girls, people with disabilities, small-scale farmers, indigenous people, and sexual minorities. So this is actually a key demand from civil society to the UN Secretary General for Action for Sustainable Development Action for Sustainable Development. We need a civil society focal point. So we need someone who can lead us in promoting sustainable development goals. We need to improve accessibility and meaningful engagement, learning on digital inclusions, and which unfortunately not many are able to access, as I previously mentioned, digital technologies, and also focal point in every UN agency. So this is a conclusion and best practices of the presentation, and hopefully some of you are interested to learn more about these issues. The first one is conclusion. The conclusion is we need to strengthen the multi-stakeholder partnership, specifically improve enabling environment for CSO to operate. Multi-stakeholder partnership fund, as I previously mentioned, funding is actually one of the biggest obstacles in promoting sustainable development goals, especially a trust fund that could be accessed by non-state actors who are working to support SDGs implementation in Indonesia, including me, for example, including some of you who are working with your young people organizations or even your initiative. If for example, we have this trust fund, it will be a great progress in supporting SDGs implementations, and also increase tax revenue, because there are many corporations doing illicit financial flows and do not pay taxes to the government. And this is a best practices that we can introduce. The first one is strengthen the multi-stakeholder partnership. If you go to the website, Sitomus 2050 Finland, this is actually created by Finland Commission for Sustainable Development. You can actually register your initiative to the website if you're actually it's a Finland citizen. So I think this is a very good initiative or case if you try to promote the implementation in Indonesia. So because from what I know, a lot of people are working on sustainable development goals, but they do not know how to start and how to report their progress. So if, for example, we have this kind of website where when we can register our commitment, it will be great for Indonesia. And there is also best practices in Turkey where the multilateral bodies and private sectors form a partnership to launch the Boost Civil Society Technology Challenge. So they try to accelerate digital transformation of civil society organization, especially those who are working on grassroots communities. And also in the UK, Durham University also collaborating on solution to SDGs through Game Changer Innovation Program. So it will be great, maybe for example, ITES or other university to create this boot camp to equip young people or young students how to actively involved in supporting SDGs and also addressing the problems in the communities. And last but not least, there is a quote by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He mentioned that civil society organization link government and people. They are vital for voice for human rights. When civil society is muzzled, we lose an essential forum for dialogue and we lose the lifeblood of democracy. That is why I advocate at every possible opportunity for the protection and expansion of civic space. Me, myself, as maybe I can consider myself as civil society organization and also young people. I concern with development in my countries. I concern with the future of young people, and I concern about the world, and that's why I'm taking part of this initiative. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to discussion.
Okay, wonderful. I have said wonderful so many times in this opportunity. Thank you very much for such an eye-opening lecture about your effort to achieve the partnership of the goals. Okay, and it is really inspiring. We cannot wait to have discussion session in this Q&A session from our students. Is there any question, please? If there is no question, I will ask you some question. Okay, I knew that one of our students here have an opportunity to learn in Fontys University, if I'm not mistaken, Muhammad Kahari Pranata. Could you please open your camera and your mic, Ari? Muhammad Kahari? Okay then. Ari, no response? Okay then, I will pick one of you to ask your opinion about SDGs, especially number 17 and what we have talked about during the lecture. Rahel Cecilia, could you please open your mic and your camera? Okay, then I will ask questions to Miss Denisa. Miss Denisa, learning from Singapore a couple of times before this opportunity, I met a manager of a company in Singapore that they pursue any chance to make their country sustainable, especially to defend their problem against the trash problem and also water problem. And they do many things to defend their country in facing this problem. But in Indonesia, it is quite different, because in Singapore they feel, the whole country feel responsible about the sustainability of their country. But in Indonesia, it is pretty hard, because yeah, in our country, we are still struggling about what we are going to eat today. Are you, do you agree with this?
Yes, in certain points, I agree, because not many people, as I previously mentioned, do not have knowledge on the importance of taking care of trash and garbage, for example. That's why they don't really, pay attention on how to do the recycling, reuse, and what is the 3R? Reuse, recycle, and the other one.
Reduce,
Oh yeah,
reduce.
reduce, reuse, and recycle. That's correct. So the first one, I think, if I want to try to address, if you want to compare Singapore and Indonesia, it's actually a huge difference. If we're talking about Singapore, it's a quite developed countries where most of the citizens are having a good quality educations, when they have access to access the knowledge to know the 3R itself, and also they already kind of like fulfill the needs, their daily needs, for example, food. But in the context of Indonesia, we still have a lot of problems where even people do not have enough basic food to eat every day. That's why I say it's kind of correct. And the second one, I think it's about the education as well. The quality of our educations do not really pay attention on the practical implementations. For example, in the school, we know there are like, for example, problems on flood, or even problems or natural disaster causing by this garbage and trash, but we don't really encourage them to do something about it, right? So we focus much more on the theoretical concept instead of the practical activities that we can do, as for example, as young people. So that's why not many people are really interested to do something about it. But to be honest, like in this several months, in these years, I saw like several good initiative in the context of garbage and trash. For examples, in I think like one of the CSR companies have a CSR project or initiative trying to utilize the garbage and trash, and there is this increasing awareness on how, as young people, we need to bring our own tumbler, for example, our own food container, for example, to reduce the number of garbage. So there is this raising awareness among young people and among Indonesian community in general, but we just need more doing that by keep pushing the the governments to create regulations, and by educating the civil society, and by educating the society in general to reduce the garbage itself. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Indonesia has also have this context or this concept of low carbon economy development. So currently Indonesian government are trying to promote low carbon development. It means that we try to reduce the emissions of the carbon and also the use of garbage. So this is something, a good initiative that we need to scale up. Yet unfortunately, since I'm also part of that initiative, we are currently focusing on the funding again, because the local government or even like civil society organization or even those who are having initiative do not have enough resources to implement the initiative in a massive way. So I think this is something that we need to keep pushing by, for example, for you using writing an article, for example, pushing the governments or educating the people, and me myself as civil society organizations voicing out the problems and also advocating why this is very critical for Indonesia to focus on managing trash and garbage in the very first place.
Yes, so it is quite fair if we said that the sustainable development goals discussion currently in Indonesia stuck in a high level discussion.
Yeah.
And I am pretty sure that the way that we have to pursue is to reach those in the grassroots, as you said before, and yeah, grow the and encourage the people to be aware about this is actually a crisis that we facing right in front of us, and if we don't do anything about it, our children and also our junior will be facing much more bigger problem about this about these problems. There is so many issues actually in Indonesia.
Yeah, it's actually true. You mentioned about it's very interesting that the discussions of sustainable development goals are stuck in high level officials. Where we are that's why we are trying to like engage more to the, for example, students, young people, to bring the case into the surface, to promoting how important sustainable development goals is. But like one initiative that I think is very critical as well, translating sustainable development goals into the local languages, because Indonesia is a very diverse in the context. Not many people, especially in the grassroots, are talking in Indonesia, even in English. And unfortunately, a lot of documents about SDGs are in English, and even like in Indonesia, but like they are still limited even in Indonesia languages. And I think it will be critical if we can speak traditional languages to translate the context of SDGs into a local level using a local language to reach those who are living in the grassroots level of societies, and asking them to contribute more and in supporting SDGs. I think this is a good initiative that we need to scale up as well.
Yes, I like the idea to translate the document into local language so that those in Tengger they maybe can be aware about the SDGs, those in Baduy part, those in Desa Adat in Bali.
Yes.
Yeah, very good idea. I hope INFIT can pursue this one. And also us in ITS, it might be very, very wonderful if we can take part on that kind of initiatives. Okay, maybe any other questions from the students, or just we can discuss anything here. Okay, maybe we can move to the next session, Mbak Tias or Mbak Reini?
Actually, I have one more question before I give the microphone to Mbak Tias. Okay, Mbak Denisa, now we live in unstable condition. I mean, we live in a pandemic era that we never imagined before. And it makes the situation in Indonesia, especially in economic sector and etc. I mean, we have a decreasing economy. So, in your opinion, how we can get the goals, all the goals, or how if we can achieve on 17 goals for SDGs? Do you still believe that Indonesia can achieve all the goals in 2030, Mbak Denisa?
Thank you so much, Bu Reni. I think this is very interesting question as well. Even us in civil society organizations still discussing and quite pessimistic and a little bit optimistic on how whether we can achieve SDGs in 2030 or not. Because according to the data in the Asia Pacific regions, in Asia Pacific Forum just recently held, Asia Pacific regions, including Indonesia, will not meet the targets until 2065 if current trends continue. So if we're working as a business as usual, something that we're currently doing right now, it's quite impossible actually to achieve SDGs. That's why we need more transformative accelerations and initiative coming from young people, for example, and also civil society organization, even university, to allocate the resources as much as possible to support the SDGs implementations. Because if we just doing like right now, even like before COVID-19, the progress of SDGs has been stagnant actually, and it has been worse. It has been exacerbated by COVID-19. That's why, for example, the indicator of poverty. Previously, we already reached the single digit, and right now we go back again to the double digit in Indonesia, right? So this is a problem that is very bad that we need to approach together. And yeah, in order to achieve that, I think I would like to mention again the importance of multi-stakeholder partnership and the proposal of trust fund, as I previously mentioned, because if we are doing it together with business, philanthropy, and also government are able to create a policy, and civil society organization and media and also university oversee the implementation and support the implementation, I think it's still possible to reach 2030 target. But if we don't do anything and we just doing as business as well as usual like right now, I think it's very hard, it's very difficult to reach, even maybe after 2065 to be achieved. And this is something very sad, yeah, to be honest, because Indonesia is currently having a bonus demography where we need to optimize a lot of young people. And if, for example, we are not able to optimize right now, when we have a lot of young people, it will be very difficult to be a developed countries in 2045, because most of us are already old, and there is this huge there is this huge dana pension, I don't know how to say it in English, that the government need to pay to the older and elderly, and in the context of social protections. So yeah, that's, I think, a little bit my opinion about whether or not SDGs could be achieved in 2030. Hopefully it answer, yeah, Mbak Reni.
Yeah, that's clear from NGO's perspective. So like Mas Ade said, we have to make great collaboration between NGO, the government, academician to reach 17 goals of UN SDGs. That's great, Mbak Denisa.
Thank you. And I think one important points about university and also civil society organizations, unfortunately, we cannot do it by ourselves, because even INFIT usually create a research or like evidence-based advocacy. So we usually collaborate with universities to create a research, and then we advocate the result of the research to the local government. That's why this kind of the collaboration need to be strengthened, especially with local civil society organization. For example, ITS can work with civil society organization in Surabaya, or like even in East Java, to promote evidence-based advocacy, because sometimes as civil society organization we are kind of have experience in advocacy, but we don't have that much experience in research, and something that can be can be collaborated with university and even with the local government. So yeah, that this kind of conducive multi-stakeholder collaboration that we need to promote in the very first place. Yeah, thank you, Mbak Reni.
Okay, wonderful. One more question, maybe. If there's no question, then I guess it is the certificate awarding session. Okay, but first, maybe I will tell the participant to not forget that the first assignment of TWIL submission, that's what I learned, or TWIL, should be submitted after this, and the second TWIL, I'm sorry, but yes, could you confirm when? Okay, don't forget to, yeah, that one on the chat box. Don't forget that the first assignments of TWIL submission, that's what I learned, should be submitted by May, or second TWIL. It is the second TWIL. Am I correct? But yes. Okay, it is the second TWIL, should be submitted by May 21st, 2022. Am I correct?
Yes, very correct, Mr. Ade. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to choose two streams among May sessions as your tutorials material. The worksheet can be found through the chat box and submit your worksheet through also the link already sent in the chat box. Thank you and happy SDGs learning. Yeah, we already done the SDGs learning. And also there is more announcement here. Okay, actually we have participants for the study excursion to Singapore here. I hope they got so much insight here that you have to make summary for your assignment. The link for the summary submission already sent through the chat box and also on the line group. And in June 2022 we will have GLS on SDGs project. But yes, could you please share the poster? Yeah. Okay, this one, GLS on SDGs project. The call for proposal submission is starting from today and will be end. And on 3rd June, we will do pitching workshop and information of GLS on SDGs project. And on from 10 to 24 June, you have to submit and submission and also implementation of the project. And on Monday, 27th of June, there is announcement for the winner. The pitching, as I said before, the pitching workshop and information will be run on Thursday, June 9th. Actually, it is next week. And also, the ITS student will get fee waiver for Comtech online short program. Okay, I guess that's all. Okay, and also, what's next? Okay, next is certificate awardee to Miss Denisa Kawurian. Thank you very much for your time. We do really appreciate it. And we hope there is more opportunities to having you here in ITS.
Thank you so much, Mbak Tias, Mbak Reni, dan juga Mas Ade.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Actually, this is very wonderful opportunity. It is like my 100th time saying wonderful. Okay. Okay then. Is it all or there is more that I have to tell the students? But yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ade, for your announcement. I think that's all the announcement that we need to share. And you might close the session. Thank you very much, Mr. Ade.
Okay, thank you very much, but yes. Yeah, especially for those who participate in study excursion, if there is any question, please don't hesitate to reach me because we are facing our end for the pre-on-site program. Okay, now before we end our lecture today, we invite all the participants as well as the honorable speaker to take a group photo. And therefore, we would like to request all participants to open the camera. Guys, come on, we are having, this is the very easy part of the meeting actually. Don't hesitate to open your camera.
Maybe because it's really late, yeah, in the afternoon. I don't know.
There's 1, 2, 3. Great. It is very happy to see you guys. Actually, a little smile is very good to see here. Okay, Mbak Tias, could you please take the picture? Okay, I will count in 1, 2, 3. Once again, 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Now we've finished the group photo. Then for the participants, don't forget to fill the feedback form. Maybe Mbak Tias will send the feedback form on the chat box that you can also see in the chat box. Of course, we want to remind you the participants who will get the stamp are the participants who come on time, join this event until the end, and also fill the feedback form. For there is no next week meeting, I guess. And finally, we have reached the end of today's guest lecture series. Thank you very much for our honorable speaker, and also the participants for the attention and cooperation. We have to see you in any next agenda that will be provided by ITS Global Engagement or INFIT. Don't forget to follow our social media on Instagram at ITS International Office, and also our Facebook at ITS International Office too, and keep updated about our programs. Okay, and see you in GLS on SDGs project next month. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Denisa. Thank you very much.
Mbak Tias, Mbak Reni, Mas Ade.
Terima kasih Mbak Denisa.
Izin live ya Ibu Bapak semuanya.
Ya, silakan. GLS
Okay.
Mania, mantap.
Okay, allow me to end the session in 3, 2, 1.